19 weeks, just routine 19-week ultrasound, find out gender, and I could tell by the ultrasound tech's face that something was wrong. And I knew my doctor's a friend, and so she took me into the room and just told us that we needed to see a specialist. We do live 3 hours away, and I have 2 other children that are school age. It was going to be very difficult for us to be able to go back and forth. My husband works a lot, telemedicine, through the Angels program here in Fayetteville, and we were so blessed to feel like we could be a part of that. There was just decisions that we had to make, whether to take the baby early or continue along and let him grow in utero. Crawford was born at 37 and a half weeks. On August 15th, 2012, I got to hold him, I guess, about 10 minutes, and he was taken to Children's. And he had surgery the next day. He was diagnosed with posterior urethral valve. I never ever could have imagined this outcome that we've had. Anyone with a busy life that doesn't live near like a children's hospital, I definitely think that it's the way to go, really. I mean, we would have done it. We would have driven every week. You know, you do whatever you have to do for your baby and get them the best possible care for them. But God, it just made everything so much better.
I think the patients that benefit the most are rural patients that are far away from tertiary care centers that have serious medical problems. The other group is the acute patient that has a very serious medical problem, again, somewhere else, that needs expertise to help in the management. So stroke is a very a strong example of this. And these patients are having a stroke and they need an expert to come in and treat them, which is what we do with the stroke management program.
In the month of August of 2010, that whole week had been a stressful week. That whole weekend leading up to August the 9th, I do stay quite busy as a pastor. 2 services a Sunday. This particular Sunday, August the 8th, I had preached 3 times. My head constantly hurting. And instead of taking the aspirin, I was supplementing the aspirin with BC powders. When I finished preaching August the 9th on a Monday night, it looked like my whole world had changed. I immediately had a stroke. My entire left side, the dripping of my mouth, the blurring of the eyes, the limitless use of my left hand, arm, left side, all of that felt like a heavy weight was pulling me down, and my speech was slurred. But I was still able to be aware that something was happening, and me not never having a stroke, I sensed maybe this had to be what it was. The pastor of that church rushed me to the West Memphis hospital. He must have been driving 80 or 90 miles to go 6 blocks. I remember them coming to the car, putting me in a wheelchair, and then taking me up to the, because my walk was weak. I couldn't walk. I was in just a bad way. I understand that I needed to take a shot to try to reverse the stroke from really escalating, no doubt into disability or maybe even death. I just didn't know. And I remember the doctor of that particular hospital on call that night, connected with a doctor through the television. He walked me through and talked me through as best as my attention span, but time was steady going by, escalating. I believe then it got up to 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I think I got that shot within 20 minutes. I just couldn't fathom the fact all this was happening to me. I tried to keep myself well and healthy, but it was very devastating, and I did have to have some counseling because it was a traumatic experience. when I look back, the main thing I feared disability more than dying. I just couldn't see myself, you know, dragging my arm or leg or just being disabled, what I've been used to. But God brought me through along with the medication. I still have to give God, you know, the credit for pulling me out, giving me another chance. And I can tell anybody there's still life after a stroke.
My husband was washing my hair, and he put the towel over it when he got through, and he said, "Stand up." I said, "I am standing up." And he said, "No, you're not." When he looked at me, that the left side of my face had kind of drawn a little bit.
I said, "Pat, you got to stand up." She said, "I am standing up." I said, "No, you're not." But when I got her straightened up, she turned around and looked at me. Then I saw that the left side of her face was drooping, and I automatically knew that she had had a stroke. So I had to get her over to a chair so I could call 911, which I did. The ambulance was here within 15 minutes. From there, when the ambulance came in, they took it from there. And then, of course, I didn't see her anymore till I got actually, she was in the procedure room when we got to the hospital. I was really impressed. One of the nurses I've known for many, many years, her name is Sue Sellers, and she told me, she said, "Now, George, I want you to go over and sit down in that chair and just watch." And I did. And it was amazing. They set a television up in front of her and with a little camera on top of it. First thing you know, you saw the picture of the doctor. Then they adjusted the camera so he could see what he needed to see, and he got the information he needed for them to give her a shot, which they did, and everything was everything was calm and collected. Wasn't anybody upset or pushing real fast. They just did their job the way they were supposed to.
About 2 years ago, our current nurse manager at the time and we heard about it at a conference, a nursing conference that we had gone to, and discovered that there was another hospital within Massachusetts using it in their NICU. So we took a little field trip out to that NICU out in Western Massachusetts and looked to see how they were using the webcam, and really just fell in love with it and thought, oh, this would be great for our families. So that's when the process began, was about 2 years ago.
Having a 26-weeker in the NICU when we had Gavin made it extremely difficult to divide my time between here and there, considering he was less than 2 years when his brother was born. And when I was here, I was able to watch it while I was pumping, and any time in between calling the nurses for checkups and everything like that also helped with my anxiety significantly, and I feel like it made the NICU experience a lot better. With my youngest, she was born at 30 weeks, and again, we got an angel bed almost immediately since there was more available. And not only was I able to watch her, I was able to give my husband's grandmother, who is dying, the password and everything to get to see her one and only granddaughter. It's one thing to be able to get updates on your child, but it's a whole nother one, or even on a loved one, it's a whole nother one to get to see them. A phone call is great, but video chatting can just mean so much more because it makes the distance and time seem not as great. It seems like it's so much easier to handle. It's such a wonderful, wonderful program. It's such a blessing to have in so many ways. As a mother, I can't express enough how grateful I truly am still for the program and how much I recommend it for other people.
This is our logo here, and the kids, when they come down this long hallway, they know that the front of this building is their school-based health center. When the students come in, they present right here, and we have a student waiting room that's back behind our reception area. That way we can keep track of our students, and we know for sure where they're going when they check in and when they leave. We have our public waiting room. So the public comes in through that entrance, and then we're able to keep campus security throughout the whole process of students and community members accessing the school-based health center. What we're most excited about is telemedicine services coming here because the Jasper School District has 3 campuses. Jasper is the largest, and it's in Newton County. We have Kingston and Madison County, and Oark and Johnson County.
We're in such a rural area, and nowadays most of our parents in the households have jobs. Both parents have jobs, so they don't have a lot of free time to take the kids to the doctor when they need to go. So this will enable our kids to be seen and cared for without losing educational information time, and the parents won't have to lose any work time as well. So I think it'll be very positive.
As the nurse here, I've been here about 5 years now, I've just been able to experience how difficult it is to get our kids in to see a provider at times. And to know that I've got the capability of being able to provide for those needs of our students is just incredibly exciting and just really thrilling to have that here.
Our school nurses provide all of the medical services to our students. So this telehealth unit will provide our nurses assistance in getting our students help and allowing them to be served at school and remain in school instead of having to travel 30 miles to the nearest doctor or even further.
We need to be able to access our nurse practitioner when the students have needs. So if a student comes in and they have a rash that our school nurse and OARC can't identify, being able to dial up our APRN and get a consult on what that rash actually is incredibly helpful to our school nurses.
If Telemed had not been here, my husband wouldn't be here. 26 years National Guard. He was 11 years active duty. He's done 3 tours. He had just returned in February of 2011 and was on active duty orders at Shelby, working in transportation, and it was time for annual PT test. Went down that morning to do a PT test, and everything was fine. Didn't have any indication that it was a heart attack, and thought he had heartburn. He came in on June 29, 2011.
When I looked at him, we knew that if he was having a heart attack, it was a STEMI. Joyce Martin was here. She got him in here, got him on the stretcher. We started it and got him flew out, and they told us that he had a large heart attack with minimal damage due to the fact that we was able to get him out as fast as we were. It's great for our community. We've got some great nurse practitioners here. I've had several family members that's been through this ER that's had to be shipped to the bigger hospitals, and they really took good care of them. If they hadn't have been here, I think they would have died.
Kept me informed the whole time. I wasn't able to get here when it happened, but several of the staff members were calling and giving me updates and letting me know what was going on. This means a lot because it means life or death for these people that live here. Heart attack victim comes in, it means we're 10 minutes from getting the help you need. It means if your child has the knee stitches, that's it. A broken bone, it's here. Life to us is precious, and if they're not here to save it, then we're not gonna make it. Get Telemed. Get Telemed because it will save your life and your family members' lives.
Access to care is limited. Growing up in rural Arkansas, having limited resources to medical care.
This telehealth unit will provide our nurses assistance in getting our students help and allowing them to be served at school and remain in school instead of having to travel 30 miles to the nearest doctor or even further.
It is definitely a viable option for small local hospitals, rural hospitals that don't have the access, and they'll never have the access to specialists.
It's the way to go, really. We would have done it. We would have driven every week. You know, you do whatever you have to do for your baby and get them the best possible care for them. But God, it just made everything so much better.
In the midst of dealing with a critically ill child, if you have to think about a 5-step process to connect to another hospital, that's going to be a game ender right there.
It's been a wonderful medium, I think, for education in the rural areas like ours.
Talking to the key players, talking to the insurance industry, and making sure that they were on board and making them understand a lot of those key players that we felt like were going to be affected by this.
This allows us as healthcare providers to reach out and do things to patients even though they're not in my office.
We've had healthcare reform, we've had payment reform, and now we've got to have patient reform.